Hello everyone, DCI agent here. I'm about to take our first look into a case of distrust. While I'm here, gonna check my settings. So all I know is it's just another point and click kind of puzzle game, which I'm pretty fond of. Let's get in here. I look at my desk chair. Across from me were his piercing amber eyes. They surprised me at first, but I should have known he'd be here. I stretched and said mid-yawn, "Not very nice to sneak into a sleeping woman's apartment." But his stare just continued. I laughed at his glare. I'd seen San Francisco's shrewd thugs, hardened cops, and deadly politicians, but none could ever match that gaze. I knew I didn't have what he wanted. Reaching into my coat, I took up my knife and flicked it open. I held the knife steady while staring back at him. "Look," I said, nodding towards the desk. "That's all there is. Take it or leave it." But the detective knows when she speaks, and I knew then. He wanted to search the place, and that's what he would do. I sighed, knowing my weakness for his type. "Alright," I said. "Let's look." He let out a gleeful meow in victory. I got a piece of my apple that the cat had rejected. "Always the sore winner," I jabbed. I was smiling too, because I was telling the truth. There's absolutely no other food in my apartment. Silly kitty. The cat often dropped by to scavenge. He made a lot of noise when he thought I was holding out on him. But right now, the place was clean empty. No food anywhere. I had to prove it to him. The cat had walked into my apartment a few years earlier. He kept coming back, though there was rarely a morsel to eat. He continued his loud meowing until I proved to him the place was empty of food. To the kitty? "Doesn't matter how doe-eyed you are, Cutie Pie. We've got no food around," I told him. He licked his chops and looked at me. Apparently he still didn't believe that. I need to contradict him somehow, to show him something in the apartment that would prove it was empty of food. I went back to the apartment to search for clues that I could show to him. Presenting evidence to a cat. My old notebook, now filled to the brim. I wrote everything down, even the minor details. Never know what can be useful. The first half had my old cases, details from the beats I used to walk in my policewoman days. Of course, policewomen were forbidden from going on patrol, but Lewis often overlooked that role. The lamp had belonged to my Uncle Lewis. He'd been an SFPD officer. When he argued policewomen could be good detectives, meanwhile the others jeered at me. I knew he'd been right, but my current workload didn't help that claim. I thought about Lewis more often than I wanted. I was lousy at handling the emotions behind those thoughts. Did he die? I had taken copies of old murder cases from the SFPD records when I'd left. I loved reading through them, even though my own contributions were minimal. At the time, I was longing for those types of jobs. The truth was, any work was hard to find for a female detective. Packaged cigarettes were the latest trend, but I still preferred to roll my own. The ashtray was evidence that it was a practice skill. I suppose I had a lot of free time back then. I kept the small statue underneath the side table. It had been police evidence in a crime, and its owner hadn't wanted it back. I took a shine to it, so I snagged it for myself on my way out of the department. The regular white icebox, tinged yellow with age, half blocked the kitchen doorway. My income barely kept much stocked in it, and right now, it was empty. The door to the outside world. If I left now, though, the cat would start wailing so loud I'd get complaints from the neighbors. No, he needed convincing before I could leave. I just show him the empty icebox. Evidence. I opened the icebox so the cat could see inside. Empty, I told him. The cat looked quizzically at the open door, then back at me. Sorry, fella, there's no grub in there for me either. He stared at me with eyes as disappointed as I felt. Those big yellows always got to my soul. That's my family filled my head. My sister, Muriel, had sent a letter with an update of her life in Chicago. She and her husband had just purchased a new home outside the bluster of the city. Their 3 young children were looking forward to the move. I never told Muriel, but those letters... kept me going. Hearing about my family, forever remote, helped me cope with the isolation I was feeling. I'd refused to accept it myself back then, but perhaps Muriel had known it anyway. My sister had the ordinary lifestyle that I had rejected. I wanted to change the world, to bring justice for victims, especially the ones who no longer had a voice. Not that I was helping advance that cause with the types of cases coming my way. My mind spiraled into the usual series of questions. Had I even impacted the women's movement? Had I made any change on society at all? Was my plotting career worth losing traditional happiness? What was the point in the life I had chosen? A loud meow from the cat snapped my thoughts back into the moment. I took a deep breath and grinned back at him. Guess you can scram now, I said. Nobody's gonna come knocking for the food for you, fella. Unless... They immediately came and banging on the front door. Beyond a nuisance, this cat was psychic too. You order out, I asked him. In the doorway was the regrettably familiar face of Connor Green. Yeah, he kinda looks like a douche. His company churned to my stomach. It might have been his bergamot perfume, which hung around my nostrils like a lingering unwanted guest, or that sordid smile, which was forever plastered on his face. He stared at me through the door with a coy smile. Weren't you gonna let me inside? He's probably one of those people who will be more annoying if I ignore him. I let him through the door before closing it. Hey now, he said, looking at my apartment. You know this clutter might turn off some customers. Maybe not me, though. So that was his angle. Hiring me as a detective. I wonder what a bootlegger would need with a private eye, but he answered without my prompt. I'll make this quick. I can't take this to the doghouse or the pigs would laugh me out. Another dicks just aren't as tempting. His grin widened. But this is gonna be quick. I thought this was gonna be quick, I said, and I started rolling a cigarette. It wasn't quick, and I already rolled and lighted a second smoke when Green finally finished his story. I omitted the important bits in my book. It had started with a letter, slipped under his door in a white envelope. It read, "End your game or we'll end you." It had no signature, It said, ending with only a small scribble in the bottom right corner that resembled a black hand. Green had laid on a new rum running scheme, a connection from Vancouver. He gave a sample to Tiny Paul, the gangster who ran the Tin Spoon speakeasy for mob boss Jerry Ferry. They agreed to buy in for more. Green surmised the letter was about his rum running. He suspected Redstone Stable, another bootlegger, as sending the letter. He told me that Stable ran a barber shop during the day and gave me the address. Green needed to know who the threat was from. He had Paul's gang to deal with him and continue his scheme to get rich. If I go snooping myself, he concluded, folks see I'm not trusting people. No trust leads to no customers. And to play it low-key, which is where you come in. I raised an eyebrow and stared at him through the cigarette smoke. Something in his yarn was still twisted. He must have noticed my reticence, because I said, "You know, I work closely with Lewis. I'm sure he'd want to protect me as much as any other victim." My uncle. I was still searching for answers after his death. He'd been a man obsessed with helping victims and bringing justice to those beyond salvation. With that ethos, I never understood how he could have taken his own life. Those thoughts haunted me. I quit the SFPD and started my own practice, taking his philosophy. Was Green worth my time? Would he be worth Lewis? He had tipped off my uncle in a few cases. I wondered if that was enough to warrant my protection. Before I could think past my headache, he threw a bill in my lap. Keep the C note as a retainer, and don't worry about getting in touch. I'll find you later for a chat. He walked out the front door and I let him go. If he was willing to give me $100 for no commitment, I wouldn't stop him. I turned back to the apartment, so confused about the whole story. My headache wasn't helping either. Whenever I lacked clarity, a trip to Southern Coffee was usually the cure. I mounted a gold plate on the outside that read, PC Malone, Private Investigator. There's only one place I needed to go to clear my head. Southern Coffee was a basement dive. It wasn't modern, hip, or ever busy. It was my favorite place to down some paint, especially in the company of the best bartender in the city. I waved down a taxicab and was on my way. I thought I might talk with the driver to pass the time. We talked about the weather and not much else. Sometimes taxicab drivers and paid for conversation partners. Southern Coffee was an automat diner. Ethel Burgess, the lone waitress, wasn't friendly to help with any inquiry. Of course, if you winked at her right, she'd show you the way to the downstairs toilet where Frankie played bathroom attendant. Southern Coffee had the distinct feeling of home. The familiar smell of mold in that old basement was enough to put a grin on my face. Frankie tended bar at Southern Coffee. That wasn't his place. I never caught a whiff of the real owners. They trusted Frankie to do what he did best. I said, "Hello, Frankie," and was met with a smile and a grunt from Franklin Ernest Conway. He had his orating skills. He was a fantastic orator, but knew when to be a good ear too. For my money, there hasn't ever been nor will ever be more loyal barman. I sat at the bar. "You got the spokes, PC?" he asked. "You're one as a catcher's mitt." I suppose my exhaustion showed. I want $100 for nothing, and I can't let it go. I told Frankie about the case, the threatening letter sent to Connor Green, how he assumed it was related to his bootlegging, and the suspicion of Redstone Stable. The story took longer than I'd wanted, Frankie showing genuine interest by asking many questions. When I finished, he threw me the whiskey shower he had been stirring. I took a large gulp and gave a sigh as thanks. "Well, Green's case is better than most of what you're given," he said with some enthusiasm. "At least it's not more of that adultery bug." "Sure," I replied. By starting with the goal in mind, what's the point in helping a man like Rain? Frankie clicked his tongue on his teeth. Lawyer or priest, why does it matter? Let me ask you, are the clients you have now the types you want to help? I admitted they weren't. I told him that I wanted more from my detecting life. It could be that Green's case shoots your career forward, Malone. I sighed and stared down at my drink. But my daze was interrupted by the basement door opening then slamming shut. A small blustering woman began marching towards me. She was wearing a light blue close hat with a grey ribbon tilted back on her head. A scarf of similar blue draped around her neck, but I was startled by what she wore under it. A grey trench coat that looked too large for her frame. It was exactly like the one that had belonged to Lewis. She hurled insults at me a while. All I could do was sit and take it, until she ran out of gas and started breathing heavily. I set my drink on the bar and looked her in the eyes. I studied her features more thoroughly. It was plain she was a knockout, now that she finished shrieking. Beyond the latest blush and lipstick, she had the natural soft skin and bright eyes perpetually desired by the opposite sex. While I was eyeing her, she caught her breath and started her tirade. "I'm the wife of that bum who sneaks into your bed." I asked, "The cat?" But humor wasn't her angle, and she launched into another poetic stanza. "He just left your sty this morning," she finally ended. And that's when I gathered she was Connor Green's wife. "Mrs. Green, I'm a PI, not a homewrecker, and I don't think your husband in this line of business will want him Benedict anyhow." Her look was of pure incredulity. "A woman in that line of work?" she questioned. "I don't believe it." Need a better contrast with the cursor in this. He wouldn't give this to me if he were seen right? I told her about why Connor had come to me, the bootlegging and the threats. "You see, Mrs. Green, this is what I do. There's not much more I can show you to prove it." It still took more coaxing for her to believe me, but eventually she came around. She seemed grateful that I explained it to her. Apparently she had seen her husband leave my apartment and, distraught, she had followed me all the way to Frankie's basement and decided to confront me. You didn't follow me behind the taxi? Dang. "I suppose I lost my head after what I thought I'd seen," she said. She began to cry. Frankie, ever sure was to a dimpled girl, came around the bar and held her up. "Now that's alright, Miss Green. Why don't I hail your cab and send you on back home?" She agreed, and they walked together up the stairs. When Frankie returned, I said to him, "You can turn night real quick." He snorted a laugh. "Aw hell, we can't have that siren in here. With a torture yelling like that, every street bugaboo can come to our rescue." "Mrs. Green's a torch singer?" "Well, I learned she was Mrs. Connor Green just now, when she came in here. Only seen her as Little Fanny, being a lead for the jazz band at the Tin Spoon." "The Tin Spoon," I said. "Tiny Paul's joint?" "That's where Green is selling his liquor." "Say, you think that's where she met her husband?" I laughed. "You're the real sleuth, Frankie." He made a sarcastic bow. I shook my head. "You're telling me you squirted our little torture out just to avoid a bit of hot water?" Frankie flushed and said, "What are you talking about, Malone?" I was never good with emotions, but it was plain that Frankie had instantly fallen for the girl. "So what if I had more to squeeze out of her?" I asked. "What more could you possibly want from Little Fanny? You can't have anything to do with Green's mess." Do I have evidence? Can I use that? Well, yeah, the following her husband part's probably important too. Mrs. Green followed her husband to my place, I said. Why would she do that? Frankie rolled his eyes. You see, if you were Green's wife, would you trust him with anything? I'm sure he's always up to something. I shrugged and stood up on the bar stool. What had just happened was quite the ruckus. It seemed like my cue to move along. Sacramental use only, what does that mean? Grabbed the half-empty glass that had been next to the bottle and strolled some of its contents between my gums. A bit spicy, ain't it? Frankie asked. It's good, I nodded and gulped the rest down. It'll cost you too, he said with a smile and he grabbed the bottle for me. Finger went through his hands. Rabbis charge more than a nickel for this beauty. Only this type of Napa wine is made from that Zinfandel grape. It has a unique aroma. I've been trying to learn more about wine. Everyone knew their stuff but me. I noted what Frankie had said about the origin of the grape as he set the bottle back on the bar. It's funny you know grapes, I chided. Frankie let out a bellied laugh. Some of these grapes are older than you, Malone. And I've known about them since I was a small tot. It's why I'm so good at my job, you know. Frankie sighed. See why more folks can't taste them. That see, it's a devil. The Women's Christian Temperance Union was now under feminist Frances Willard, a positive force for the suffrage of women. Her staunch support of prohibition, along with the union's matchless political clout, irked a very wet San Franciscan public, and she particularly wasn't popular with bartenders. Anything I can ask him about? No alcohol stuff. I brought up Redstone Stable. He's the man Green pointed you towards? Ricky asked. It's also he still knows something about this, miss. I agreed. I thought about what else I could ask Frankie. You know anything about this? I'll just move on for now. I'm thinking about little Fanny. I suppose even monsters have people who cared about them. And she'd been wearing Lewis's old jacket, so perhaps Green and Lewis had been closer than I realized. I guess I'll take Connor Green's bait, I replied. I've got nothing better on the stove, and you might need the help. Something still stinks though. Well, what's your plan? Frankie asked. The way I see it, I have 3 goals right now. Green hired me for a job. Find the guy who wrote the letter. That's the basic part. What, you want more? Asked Frankie. I nodded. Green's a shady character. I have to learn about him. Who is this guy? Digging his past. I can't go back to him blind. And then there's something about his bootlegging. How did Green get a connection like that? What's his source exactly? Squeezing that lemon might give him more juice. That sounds alright, he replied. So where is it you're off to? I've got 3 leads. That bootlegger stable, who Green aims to send in the letter. The Tin Spoon Lounge, where I might learn about Green's rum-running screens. And Mrs. Green, who could give me more dirt than her husband. Frankie nodded his approval. Well, if you're ever stuck, come back and see me. You can never solve anything without talking it over. I smiled and went up the stairs. Okay, I'll go stables first. Hello? There's a tall man in the center of the room. He is wearing a flamboyant pink suit, tailored to accentuate his stature, with a maroon bow tie and pocket square. I gathered this was Redstone Stable. The man turned to face me. He grinned, and his squinting blue eyes made the smile feel genuine. I must apologize, he said. We do not take walk-ins. He studied his face a bit. I studied his face. The wrinkles around his eyes indicated he was at least 40, but the rest of his skin was clean and smooth. He wore no hat and shaved his head completely bald. When combined with his smooth skin, it had the look of a small turtle. His pink suit and maroon accessories only added to his eccentricity. He smiled and said, "How foolish of me, of course. You're here for information, Miss Malone?" I asked how he knowed my name. He tissed a few times and said, "That was a dull retort. You know you're not a standard detective. Please do not act as mundane as all the others, Luz." He sighed, but put a smile back on his face. "Yet perhaps you're here on a matter of interest. What is it you want?" Well, let's get down to business. Green claims you bootleg, I stated bluntly. His grin didn't waver in his response. Would you hang me on Connor Green's claims? I may partake in some gambling, and I may have a talent for it, but it's nothing illegal, I assure you. And you know nothing about Green's own bootlegging, I asked. Stable shook his head. I doubted he would ever answer a question straight. Well, Miss Malone, he smiled. Will there be anything else? Are there bad endings in this game? I don't know. I pulled Green's note from my pocket and showed it to him, but didn't let him hold it. Green tells me this letter is from you, I told him. He doesn't like the threats. Stable lowered his head to study the note and chuckled, so when Green returned to his face. But this is a black hand letter, he said, flourishing a hand toward the paper. Ever seen a black hand letter, Miss Malone? I confess I hadn't. Exactly, he said. You should ring your friend Shipman at the station, and that's what it means. Sam Shipman had been one of my uncle's regular partners in the vice rackets. I wonder what Shipman could have to do with Green's case. Stable seemed to think that he had a lot to do with it. I pocketed the letter and continued with my questions, but I made a note to stop by police headquarters and see Shipman. Well, Miss Malone, he smiled. Would there be anything else? I think that's it. Nothing now, I said, and turned back to the barber shop. Yeah, take a look around. I think I'll go to the lounge next. Good chat. Cleared my throat, then a rumbling voice emerged from behind the door. Fill 4 cups. Feel no distress? and all her great thoughts shrinking less. The look at the eyes still moving. I understood. The doorman wanted a password. I thought I might have something in my notes that could help. Okay, that's not good. Yeah, Mrs. Green's there, she might know. The Green's apartment was a section of an old Western Addition mansion. The owners had divided for struggling families to rent after the 1906 fire. Once downtown had been rebuilt, people of means moved out of the area. Recent immigrants, mainly from Japan, rented most of the apartments in this part of town. I knocked on the front door but didn't get a response. The latch was undone, so I pushed it open and stepped into the room. Okay there, Mrs. Green? The room reeked of laudanum. Based on the smell, I imagined she had enough opium to knock out a horse. I found Mrs. Green slumped in her chair, eyes closed, head rocking slowly. "Hello, Mrs. Green," I said loudly. She let out a long moan from the chair, and lifted her head, but failed to raise her eyelids. She tilted her head to the side, giggled, then let it loll back into place. I shook her lightly and she moaned again, but said nothing more. Well, I guess you don't mind if I just have a look around then. I opened the drawer of the backmost table. In there were 2 train tickets. I'm on St. Louis to myself, then came the cackling voice of Mrs. Green. Forget about moving, Connor. I won't budge." Her head was raised, but her eyelids still remained closed. I asked her further questions, but her head just lolled back to where it had been. There was nothing else she'd say. Yeah, she's not giving me any help. I guess to the police station then. I was dreaded visiting the PD after I'd flown the coop, but I was in no mood right now. The shipment did know something about Green's note. I had to chase it up. The Northview Station was the SFPD headquarters, also poetically baptized the Hall of Justice. The building dominated the corner of Kearny and Washington in Chinatown. Rebuilt after the 1906 earthquake, I thought it looked even more sour than it had before. I showed to the young Bob girl behind the large oak desk. She must have been new, because she shared no recognition of one another. I asked for Shipman, and she motioned me to a chair as she pressed the pearl button. I sat down as she disappeared through a frosted door. Rolled another cigarette to pass the time. Pups I thought about. My history at the department. I imagine the station captain would have been furious had he known I was there. I did, after all, break a tumbler with the help of another officer's temple. It may have been my last day in the force. It wasn't long before Shipman walked out of the frosted door. Samuel Shipman smiled when he saw me. It had always been helpful to me in my days on the force. Working closely with Lewis, he acquired the habit of bouncing theories my way. He judged officers purely on results, and because of that, he was one of my few fans. We exchanged brief presently before he said, "Wouldn't come here for glad handing." He had a habit of moving the subject from his sentences. "What needs doing?" I explained my case to him. He scoffed when I mentioned Connor Green. "Pick for that, pinhead? Got a good mind to run him up a flagpole." I just need to know about this letter. I handed him the note Green had given me and explained the context. After looking over, Shipman tried to stifle that. "Complete bunk," he said. "See this symbol in the corner? Mark of the Black Hand Gang. Except Black Hand letters are always ransom letters, not threats. No foothold on this coast anyhow. Never been one in California." "So the letters are fake?" Shipman nodded. "Someone trying to imitate the Black Hand." I grinned aside and noted what he said. "Don't know if Green is getting one over you," he said. "Or someone else is pulling Green's leg. But having more dirt on the man couldn't hurt, especially if he's your client." I agreed. "I've been trying to dig through his past. You got any bunk on him?" Shipman shook his head. "No, from Oakland, is all I know. But I can do some more digging." I thanked him for that. Under a pile of ice, though. Might take me a while. Why don't I telephone when I find something? I had no office where I could receive messages, but I dreaded returning to the station. I told him to call Sudden Coffee. "Just leave anything with Franklin Conway," I instructed. He said that was alright. We traded goodbyes and I went back to the station's entrance. Now I knew the letter was fake, and Shipman was looking into Green's past for me. I just needed to chase out the bootlegging lead. I sent to the street and thought about where to go. How am I gonna get a password for the speakeasy? If Franklin knows how to get to the Tin Spoon, he probably knows the password to get in. The Tin Spoon doorman kept me outside the joint. He wants a password, but I have no ideas. "So for your cups feel no distress, at all our great thoughts shrinking less," he says. "You know gangsters were the riddling type." Frankie laughed. "All our great thoughts shrinking less," he said. "What?" I asked, puzzled. He turned and grabbed the bottle from his shelf. Vintage stuff, this. Strange they use it as their code. He handed me the bottle and I read the back of the label. Fill your cups, feel no distress. At all are great without shrinking less. Will do a good deed nevertheless. If the pastor was to come from this vintage label, I now knew what I had to say to the doorman. Anything else I can ask him while I'm here? I wonder aloud how I could get more dirt on Green's bootlegging. Frankie thought about it too, he offered. Well, Green's been working with Tiny Paul on this theme. If I were to buy from a news source, I had to try it, get a taster. I continued his thought. There's likely a sample of Green stuff laying around a tin spoon. That would make sense. I can ask Paul about whatever booze I'd find in there. Frankie nodded. I thank him for the advice. Okay, got the password. But do a good deed nevertheless, I recited the line that Frankie had showed me on one of his bottles. I squinted. Wait here, came a gruff response. The panel switched shut and I heard footsteps walking away. I rolled a cigarette and waited. After a quarter of an hour, the panel opened again. Wall is closed, but you can shoot pool in the upstairs room, said the eyes. He pulled the door ajar so I can see a set of metal stairs. Walked up the stairs and opened the thin wooden door to the billiard room. It was much smaller than I expected for a gangster's paradise. The only light came from the hanging lamps above the billiard table. The haze of cigarette smoke darkened the room's corners. And who's this? I saw a tall, broad-shouldered man playing the table by himself. Based on Frankie's description, I gathered this was Tiny Paul. That's one of those ironic nicknames. He cleared my throat to again look at me, then followed with a casual, "Are you ever gonna take a shot?" He stood up straight, rested his cue on the table, and looked at me sideways. It was the petulant look of a boy forced to play with his younger sibling. "Hello," he sighed. His voice was deep. Apparently Fairy only hired baritones, but it had no gravel. It echoed slightly around the small room. I imagine he could have huffed and puffed the entire block of rubble. I like watching him, he said, nodding to the balls on the table. Thinking through my options. I never shot much pool, but I thought he might like me more if I feigned interest. I considered lying to him, telling him I played a lot. No better sport, I lied. He didn't seem to like my answer. Sometimes you brought to say anything to get what you want. Stood behind the billiards table, and he asked, "And what is it you want?" I asked about Green. "How's the gamble on that wine?" he grunted. Green setting it up. With a muscle. What more is there? You like Green? I asked. Wrinkles on his brow deepened. Like or dislike, it doesn't matter sometime. I work with what I'm given. He's given us good lead. I suppose that's why you're here, Malone. So you know me too. Graham must have looked me up. The bay talks fast. Anyhow, he said, eyeing the billiards table. You need anything else from me? If you want something, you better ask specific. Miles just never failed to grate on my nerves. He wouldn't tell me anything unless I pushed him with what I already knew. Guess I can ask about Mrs. Green. Green's wife has a torture here? I asked. Paul smiled. With the pipe she's got blood into that body, she's the reason most fellas keep coming back to the joint. So you're giving Green the dough, I asked. That's right, he said. You gave him the cash to get the supply going. You already gave him the money? Aren't your fees gonna run out on you? I asked. Tiny Paul frowned. I suppose you know less than I thought. Just to set you straight. That kid's right under my thumb. No way he'd get out of town alive before setting up our source. Is mentioning the ticket's a good idea. Okay, at least still save me from making bad decisions most of the time. Okay, they know about the letter. and they're willing to protect him from whoever's threatening him. Those are some tall chairs. One of these taxi cab conversations are going to be relevant. And no alcohol. I wonder if she mentioned these to him. Yeah. I don't think I have anything. Might be stuck. He's really out of it. Maybe I should talk to the stable about stuff. Oh, nice casual chat. I went to see the picture frame on the wall. That the old man? I asked. Stapleton looked at the photograph. No, that is my grandfather, taken near the end of his life. Why'd you hang it in here? The store was formerly owned by my grandfather. He started with humble beginnings. My Zaid taught me the meaning of hard work and dedication. I'm humbled by reminders of him. Mm. Oh, so he's speaking Yiddish. That's interesting. I think I technically showed him the letter already. I shifted to the pool table. You don't like the game as much as the strategy. You got it, he said. Like I get back to it or you got something else to ask me about. That bottle on the table? I asked. He said, that's the stuff. Sample from Green Source. I know some Napa wine that smells exactly like it, I said to him. That's so, he smiled. But that one's from Vancouver. I had to work every muscle in my face to stop my jaw from hitting the floor. Where's the wine from Paul? I asked him again. It's from Vancouver, he repeated. Frankie had told me that only Napa grapes had this type of spice. If Paul didn't know this bottle was local, I wasn't gonna tell him. They told me something very important. I had to confirm with Frankie. If my hunch was on the money, then Connor Green was not getting his wine from Canada, and he wasn't playing square with Tiny Paul. Just had to ask the right questions. Leave. Well, you like this, I told him. Remember that wine you offered me? Oh, my Zinfandel you nearly finished? Where'd you say that grape was from? It's from here. California. Napa or Sonoma. You sure? Yes, Malone. That's the only place these grapes grow nowadays. And not Canada, I asked. What are you swinging at, Malone? Tiny Paul had a bottle of wine that tasted the exact same, the identical spice. Then it was from Green's bootlegging source, Vancouver. Malone, I'm telling you, he said. No wine anywhere else in the world has that spice. It ain't from Vancouver, and Green ain't getting it cheap. I nodded. Well, you just confirmed my hunch. Green's got no source. He must be swindling Tiny Paul and the entire fairy gang. I'll bet he'll run away with the money. Frankie let out a long whistle in disbelief. Just then the phone rang. Frankie picked up with a hello. Right. Then handed me the receiver saying, shipment. You see, he said, his excited voice crackling in the speaker. Find anything on Green? I asked. Nothing, he said. I was puzzled. Then why'd you call? That's the idea. First got pinched for a brawl in the ferry building. That was in November 1920. Before that, no Connor Green anywhere around the bay. Strange, he continued. That show was staying out of a mess. Mixed up in something nearly every week. It's only appearing a few years ago. That Oakland backstory is Swiss cheese. What are you thinking? Green's got a different past? I asked. Uh-huh, he said. Guess they just got here in 1920. It's never been straight about where he's from. Wait, I said. If Connor Green was a criminal in another town, usually some cop would recognize the name and send him back home. So if he isn't that thick. Right, Shipman agreed. If it's the same name. Could be his real identity disappeared in another town. I thought aloud. So he might have changed lives. Is there any way to confirm that? If Green fled, the local police would keep looking for him. Not if they thought he died. Get these cases sometimes, where monsters fake a death to escape a burg. He's a mangled stiff to do it. Someone unrecognizable. That way to get out of town without chase. Got any mobster deaths in 1920? I asked. A ton. Too many to look through. But nailed a search for me. A town he might be from. I could check a specific city's archive. I found some tickets to St. Louis in Green's apartment, I told him. The missus was ruffled when I picked them up. I stayed on the telephone while Shipman used another line to call his contact at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I was nursing a glass of gin when he got back to me. Lucky break, BC. Seems there's one that fits the bill. He read out an article from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch dated October 8th, 1920. Gun battle at June's Diner. Gangster dead. Suspected bandit clubhouse scene of another shooting. A heated argument turned deadly Thursday as multiple shots rang inside June's Diner on 14th Street. Suspected hideout of Egan's Rats. A man was found dead at the scene, as unidentified due to shotgun wounds to his face. They suspect he is mobster Bragg the Jester, who had hired a private eye to investigate threats on his life. Oh no. Last month, Chief of Police Brandon said investigating gangster on gangster deaths was a waste of time, and the discovery of the threats lead many to believe police won't look further into the case. Hold on, I said. This Brigg character had hired a private detective? Means police are quick to forget a case if they got a reason to think it's just a gangster violence. This lines up with Green, I said. Gets better. Brigg's first name? Connor. Cursed loudly through the telephone. I continue with my theory. And your story says this Brigg was deeply indebted, so maybe Green's just waiting in San Francisco until he's got enough dough to skip town and go home. You have some bootlegging business? Chipton asked. Why would you leave that behind? No, I shook my head. His wine is complete bunk. It's local stuff, not any Canadian route he might be claiming. I didn't know why you pulled a fast one until now. Returning Brigg to St. Louis could be huge. Swing by the station, wire it all out. I agreed and slammed the receiver on its pegs. Thank you, Frankie. How's it going now? It was the news and great. Frankie asked as I was heading up the stairs. Now it seems like I had all the details. I summarized it for him. So the total wrap. Green isn't really green at all. He's Brigg the Jester, a former member of Free Against Rats from St. Louis. He's Brigg? Frankie was shocked. He's been here a while, Malone. Sure, I said. But only since 1920. He couldn't pay off his debts in Missouri, so he faked his death and moved to San Francisco. He's been longing to go back. But he needs a way to settle his score before he can show his face again. Is that where his bootlegging comes in? Frankie asked. Uh-huh. Bree set up a sham rum running scheme. He bought local wine but claimed to get it at lower prices from Canada. He gave his tiny Paul to front him a heap of cash for it. Instead of providing the wine, he's planning to skip town with Paul's money, disappearing to St. Louis with enough dough to pay back his debts. He's already faked this death once, so we'll do it again here? Frankie asked. That's right. It's kind of similar to his last one. Our detective claiming he's scared for his life, fake his death, then know the police won't bother with underground violence. Ricky looked at me with a blank stare. Didn't like all the pieces fit, he said. So he just hired you as cover? I sighed. Seems like it. Don't worry about that, Frankie started saying by cutting him off. I'm gonna see shipment now. I'll sleep away to Smith's and come back and see you. Have a stiff drink ready, I instructed. Just be careful, Malone. Egan's rats have a reputation. They can be ruthless. I turned and walked up the stairs. Are you really wrapping this up already? Green had hired me for cover so he could blow town. Shipment held the final evidence to sink that plan. I needed to get to the station. Don't know what happened. My naked arms faded into view. They emitted a soft white glow. Right in front of me, gleamed streaks in my vision. Between the streaks, it appeared in the distance. I could hardly see, but as the object below, the clarity came to me. Then I understood what it was. Lewis's gray coat. I floated towards it. I reached to grab the coat. It was when I saw the needles. No, not needles. Glass. Shards falling all around me. One piece wedged itself deep in my right elbow. I grimaced, but I was unable to make any noise or movements. But then, as suddenly as the rain had started, it stopped. I looked up for precaution, afraid of the rain's return. But above me, I saw the gray coat. It was no longer billowing. It was rigid, a shield against the terrible rain. It started falling, slowly at first, but quickly it gained speed. It came upon me and enveloped me completely. It was suffocating. I couldn't breathe. I let out a gasp. And then the light. It pierced my eye sockets, hitting the back of my skull like a hammer on an anvil. I directed all my energy into my lungs and forced out a yell. That helped. Everything became quiet. I could breathe deeply. I noticed someone beside me. He gradually came into focus. Shipman showed his teeth in a big smile. I looked at him from my laying position on the Murphy bed. He swung his leg over a chair and sat beside me. "Thought you'd never come around," he said. I tried to ask him something, but another bolt of pain raced up my elbow. All I managed was a groan. "Relax, BC. Just a few scratches. Quite the auto crash. Flew straight through the front window. It took out a large piece of glass from your right arm." Did someone run into my taxi? I remember none of that. I moaned the words auto crash to myself. I wonder how bad the accident must have been. Jim removed a flask from his pocket, unscrewed the top and handed it to me. "Not the best hooch, but might get rid of that banging in your head." I took a swig. I closed my eyes and sighed a deep breath as its warmth burned down my throat. I know modern medicine doubts it, but that gulp of moonshine helped. I went to get the flask back to Shipman, but he put out a hand to stop me. "Hang on to it. I need another swig after what I'm about to tell you." Did they get away? I propped myself up on my left shoulder to listen. About Green's case. The two of us figured he was going to fake his own death. Shipman clicked his tongue to his teeth and looked towards the floor. "That ain't happening." "Last night, Connor Green was shot through the heart twice." "What?" I shouted. The exclamation was impulsive. I swung my legs quickly around and sat on the edge of the bed. My headache had suddenly vanished. "Whoa there," Shipman said. "Look, been here with you all night," he added quickly, in that chair just beside the bed. "Just telephoned the station to check in, and that's the rap they gave me. Told them what I'd known from you, and they said they'd chase it up." "How do you know it was him?" Another involuntary question. I was running on instinct. "You see, faking your death involves a mangled body. Shot through the chest, his face is still intact. Whatever Green was planning on doing, he didn't get that far. And we looked it up. He doesn't have a twin. That would be too easy," Shipman grinned. "Green hired you for this case," he continued. "He's very right to follow it up if you want. That said, he was likely taking you for a ride. Wouldn't blame me if you want to drop it. But I'd like your help, PC. You know the case. Could use your head, even if it's been a little bumped. Once you're feeling better, I'll be at the station. Come find me there." Shipman stood up and cracked his back. "He'll catch some machete on top of my desk, too. Great beats the chair you got." He turned and walked out. I stood up from the creaking bed and surveyed the cluttered apartment. The apartment was already cramped when the Murphy bed was up. Sit down, I could barely squeeze to the living room. The cat slept at the foot of the bed. I scratched behind his ear, and he seemed to like that. Newspaper. Although Green had just been using me, his life had apparently been in danger all along. I was out to find his killer. I headed to the North Beach station for any information Shipman could give me before starting the case. Oh, Mrs. Green's here. "Malone," she exhaled through her sobbing. "You're working for my husband, what happened?" Repeating obscured her next sentences, but I got the general idea. I told her I knew as little about the matter she did, but I was looking into it, and I was sure the officers were doing their best. She begged me to help him, again drowning in most of her sentences with her sobbing. I promised I would try. She took a slow inhale, raised her chest, and walked out of the station. When she was out of sight, Red Grant came around the corner and let out a snort. Grant was another investigator for the SFPD. I studied his ruddy face, strewn with broken capillaries that gave it the impression of a map of streams. A cigar often poked through his mouth, hardening his jaw and twisting his face into a scowl. I suppose that was an appropriate look for a man who enjoyed his bribes in liquid form. Grant had never been a supporter of police women. He was no fan of mine. He lighted the cigar and said, "The widow seems pretty torn up about him. You really helping her out?" I wasn't his face now, so I just stared at him. "Well, alright, if he ain't gonna talk, then I should be on my way. Last thing I gotta do is set to the tin spoon, then toss this in the freezer." Then when he was about to close the case cold, he smiled as though he was glad to do it. I raised a questioning brow. "You aren't chasing it up?" I asked. He looked appalled that I would even ask. "We got more to deal with than some dead gangster. The captain don't care about crap like this, so long as it's not straying too far." "And what about the girl?" "What does she expect?" she asked. "This broad goes and marries an Irishman. Pih! I killed by one of his own, or some dagger, all those thumbs run together." I gave him a frown, to which he responded, "Look, if the missus wants you on this, that's her gamble. But it ain't gonna lead you nowhere. I don't expect the support from the boys." "Not even if I find Green's killer?" "Yeah. If you get a confession, we'll cop him. Nothing the DA can thumb his nose at either. You gotta admit 3 things. Means, how they killed Green. Opportunity, when they did it. Motivation, why they bother. You do that, then sure, we'll be right behind you. There ain't nobody here looking into it, I promise." He pulled on the cap and walked out. I heard a glare in Grant's direction, and I was still fuming as I turned down the hallway towards Shipman's office. Shipman was frowning at the stacks of paper atop his desk, but he stood up and smiled when he saw me. "Glad you made it." I asked him what he found on the case thus far. He left in motion at the paper stacks. None in any way related to Green. Piled on the trash now. Nobody's looking into Green's case here. I must have scowled a mean look at him because Shipman was quick to shake his head. "Not that the case is dead, PC. The captain is doing on it. Even Grant's coming off as soon as he can. We're in the water with other bunk." "So you have nothing for me?" "Not true. However, still did the regular foxtrot." He tossed me a beige folder. Inside was a large black and white photograph of Green's face. Muscles relaxed and eyes closed. It looked almost normal, apart from his flattened hat behind his head, and the dirt and grass behind that. The report behind the picture noted 3 important clues. First, that Green died at midnight the previous night. I cursed myself that I had been so close to stopping it. Looking like Green was killed with 2 .45 caliber bullets to the chest. Those slugs weren't from a pea shooter. Green was killed by a mean gun. Finally, that Green was found this morning laying in Washington Square Park. That was only a block away from the tin spoon. I noted each of those facts and gave the folder back to Shipman. "All we got," Shipman said, laying the folder back on his desk. "Convince the gunman if you can prove the case, but you gotta solve it without much support." "Don't have time to help either," he sighed. "No point in coming back here until you got your man." "At least I'm on a case," I said. "That's good enough to leave me tickled pink." Shipman laughed. "But listen, we need a confession on this one. Captain doesn't want to run around." "Right, Grant mentions they have to admit to how, why, and when they killed Green. That's it. Prove that and we'll pick him up," he said. "Never been on a murder before, right?" "Ain't get tense. Just know, if you accuse someone but can't prove anything, it'll turn like a switch. Might like you 1 minute but hate you the next. Chatting with folks is your easiest route to more information, but won't get any banter after you accuse someone of murder. So be careful who you accuse. It'll make your case harder if you go the wrong way." "Alright, I get it," I said, and I internalized it. "And remember," Shipman concluded, "plenty of lies out there. We can contradict means, motive, or opportunity with anything in your notes. I thanked him and walked outside of his office. I stood outside the police station and went over the mantra. A truth means, motive, and opportunity for anyone I suspected of the murder. Once I found all three for a single person, I'd have them licked. I set out to begin the chase. Okay, our suspects. Let me start at Green's house first. Miss Malone, she panted, with no shock in her eyes. I'm just frightened about people knocking at my door, she said by way of explanation. After what happened to my husband, everything feels so cold. Oh, I'm blabbering. Please come inside. She led the way to 2 chairs and we sat down. She was more awake than the previous day, but her hair was a bit tousled, and her dresses hung in the air long enough to belie her lack of complete sobriety. Have you found anything about my husband's killer? She asked. I shook my head and replied that there's nothing definitive just then. I said I would need to ask her some questions that might spark the investigation. She straightened in her chair and replied, Certainly. It seems your husband was from St. Louis, I put to her. She squirmed, but said nothing, so I pressed her. Mrs. Green, I'm investigating his death. You're right, she sighed. He had told me he was from out east, though he lied to everyone else. He claimed he had to flee from his past. I never asked the details, so that's all I know. And you're the first person I've told. I also had 2 train tickets to get there, I continued. You want to return? But those tickets have no date printed on them, she paused. Looked at me from underneath long lashes and continued. He was thinking about going back there. I guess whatever trouble he had was blown over. But I refused. I told him I wanted to stay in San Francisco. Whenever Connor and I quarreled, a sharp, wavering inhale cut off her sentence. Well, he kept them round to brandish, showing that he loved me and that he stayed here only for me. Come on, then we spoke about something else. I glanced at the coat that hung on the rack. Where did you get this? I asked. My focused eyes moved to the grey trench. Connor brought it home one day. It was too small for his frame, but I thought it looked swell on me. Seems built for a man, I said. Sure, but it's for freedom age, darling. He can wear anything or even nothing at all. How did you end up at Southern Coffee yesterday? I asked her. I told you. I followed Connor to your apartment. I became furious when I saw he was calling on another woman. And why were you shouting your husband to begin with? I pressed. Oh, that. She stuttered slightly. Well, I heard rumors that Connor might have been unfaithful. I discovered they were baseless, but, well, a wife never truly knows. That's why I followed you all the way to Southern Coffee. I had to know the truth, Miss Malone. Was she there during my auto accident? Suspicious. You're a jazz singer at the Tin Spoon? I asked. She gave a languid nod. I wondered how she started singing. So I asked about her roots. Well, she started. Papa never liked the petting parties or the liquor or the young men in roadsters. We never made a fuss about it. Not until I started to sing. That's enough to get a girl disowned. I suppose I was a teenage prima donna looking for attention, she sighed. You never liked singing? I questioned. Oh, but I love it, she said as she breathed in a smile. The lights, the shining dresses, the dancing, it's all marvelous. And for a young girl craving attention, there's no better cure than the spotlight. Her face beamed. I suppose I understood that. I nodded and changed the subject back to the case. I rubbed my knuckles on the same metal door. Instead of the usual dark eyes, the door swung open to reveal Fred Grant. Easy, good seeing ya. With more whiskey on his rib than a fire breather. He stumbled down the next few steps and I caught his limp body. All loose ends tied up, he said, winking at me while he tried to stand tall. The doorman in the back of the wagon, he continued. He says nobody came in or out from the upstairs billiard hall last night. The hiccup interrupted Grant's thought. You know, I believe it, but the Bulls need someone to work on, and putting welts on this goon will make the afternoon go faster. He again tried to stand upright. Failing at that, he stumbled to his police car, got behind the wheel, let the sirens loose, and drove the machine around the corner. Don't drink and drive. Okay, bye. I continued up the stairs to find similar sickness the day before. Only a tiny paw had been replaced by a young woman, idly playing with a deck of cards scattered across the billiards table. I could see the tears well up in the girl's eyes. I approached the young woman and looked her up and down. I studied her face. She was in her early 20s and was naturally pretty, with deep eyes, shimmering black hair, and big rouged lips. But holding my tears, someone twisted her face. I cleared my throat and she turned around. Oh, she said. I didn't hear anybody after that police officer left. Why are you crying? I asked. Her lower lip wavered a little, but she managed to stop it before any tears could get through. Is that the copper who was just here? First he asked about Green? And then what did he ask about? What do you think? He wanted me to feed him drinks, and the more I put in, the more fresh he got with me. He had a sigh. It's not your fault, I said. Of course it isn't, she exclaimed. All men are brutes. I can't exactly slip away from a copper. Anyhow, I'm just franked up because of the booze. I'm sure it'll wear off. She turned her gaze back to the cards on the table. She was putting up a strong mask. I could tell something about Grant's interaction rattled her. Doofus most women wear a mask in public. Almost every one of us has a story about being mistreated, or worse. Me too. I'm sorry, she interrupted my thoughts. I'm Ella Smith. I work nights as a backing singer here. I realized she was related to the Green case, at least partially. I had to pump her for information. As it backups. Nobody knows Mrs. Green, right? Green was killed around midnight, I told her. You remember anything from then? She turned red in an instant. Midnight was the time I sang all by myself to the crowd up here. How do you know it was midnight? I asked. Well, last New Year's Eve at exactly midnight, me and little Fanny, you know our lead, did a swell duet for the boys. They wanted to hear it again, but she wasn't around to sing it, so I did it alone. Little Fanny wasn't around, I asked. But the doorman says nobody from the billiards room left the joint. Ella shrugged. Maybe she was in the toilet? I didn't go looking for her. Look, I never get to sing lead. They don't like us Chinese girls doing that, so I took my chance. How could I turn it down? She asked. Oh, anyhow. After that song is when I really downed some gin. I didn't much like it, but they said it was good for me, and I was riding high with everyone watching. I don't remember much after that. I thanked her for the tip. The time you were here at midnight, I asked. That's right, she said. I don't have any proof against that. Does she know anything about the wine? No. Where's Paul? Where's Tiny Paul? I asked. Need to see him. Paul's likely as tired as I am. After the band finished downstairs, we all came up to play poker. Paul and the boys were at it the entire night, so I assume he's at home. I asked if she knew where Paul's home was, but she shook her head. No, Paul and I aren't close. That one was cheating. Who's this? He stared at me with a grin next extended to his eyes. He was wearing a barber's cape, which told me he was here for a haircut. I wonder why Stable had left this man mid-trim. That's how he was doing. Swell, he answered. Yes, very swell indeed. Thank you, miss. His words came out as jovial as his expression, and held a slight, ineffable southern tint. More pleasantries returned equally verbose responses from no me to them. That piqued my interest. A stranger in Stable's barber chair. No sign of Stable around. Who are you? I asked with genuine curiosity. I am merely a mortal man enjoying my life at this very moment, he replied, looking me up and down. And there is much to enjoy. I laughed in response. The old guy was getting fresh with me. His smile widened at my laugh. Bet that some flappers know how to take a compliment, he said. Most Bonner girls get their stockings knotted whenever someone calls them pretty. Disagreed. Sometimes those compliments can become uncivil. You can't have gentlemen getting out of line. I suppose that's true, he laughed. Yes, indeed, that is true. Well, my name is Ray Carter, regular jazz bassist at the Tin Spoon Lounge. Speakeasy in North Beach. It's my pleasure to meet you, miss. Worked at the Tin Spoon. That surprised me. Were you there last night? I asked. None too early this morning, he gleaned. Won a bucket of change at the poker table. Just about everyone was saying they never saw someone play cards so well. Sometimes you get lucky, I suppose, he winked. I wonder if he was at all related to this case. I was glad he was smiling. Not be a suspect he my any harsh questions. He saw me taking notes and asked, and are you some sort of continental operative? When I nodded, he let out a whistle and said, a woman detective. Well, that is almost as swell as the sight of a black man in a white man's barber chair. Very stable. You yourself said it was strange to have a black man sitting in a white man's barber chair, I said. In fact, he smiled, it is even more rare to be in a rich white man's barber chair. So, why did Stable invite you over? I asked him. He sighed. You know, white men will smile and be nice to you, but never treat you as an equal. No matter your education or background, that is, until they require something of you. And what does Stable need from you? I asked. So, oh, I like you, miss. You get to the point when it matters, but you're fun all the same. There's much to respect in that. I was glad I nurtured his friendship. David wants to know about Connor Green, he continued. How Green died and why, you see. He knows that yours truly was playing at the Tin Spoon last night. David wanted to ask me some questions this morning. Well, no, how can I refuse such a fantastic request? And where did Stable go? I asked. He was here, congenial and unhurried. Then he received a telephone call and said he had to check on something at his 10-4 and racetrack. He told me to sit tight until he returned. And here we are. I know, thanks. Yeah, I got some new people already. And some information. SAVC and Paul, maybe? How much did you win last night? I asked him. Oh, a heap of it, he grinned. And how many aces did it take you to get there? His face showed genuine surprise. You know that Tiny Paul's a mean-spirited, no-good, black-hidden son of a bitch, he said. He pays us pennies but wants us to be good and smile for him. But I am not having that, miss. No, I am not having that at all. Yes, I took him for a ride, but I feel no remorse for it. In some ways, it is all part of the game. I said that was alright, but Tiny Paul might see it differently. Oh, come now, you would not tell him, would you? He pleaded. I don't see a reason I need to, I said. He said, well, now you are alright. More than alright, it seems. That's not a fact, and he sighed in relief. You know, he continued, I bet I had no reason to cheat last night. Not the way Ellie kept distracting him. Yes, he is very distracted indeed. Raise a questioning brow. Ella Smith and Tiny Paul, is something going on? Deco throws herself on him like she'd throw water on a fire. I know that, and changed her subject of conversation. The Swift tells me little Fanny wasn't in the billiard room at midnight, I put to him. I remember her being there at the beginning and at the end of the night, but I cannot keep track of everyone there every time. Although it seems sure, I know of no reason to doubt her. So he claims he and Paul have each other's alibis. Well, have fun with your haircut, I guess. Do I go to the racetrack now? The Temforan racetrack had reopened the previous year with the help of millionaire Adolf Spreckles and some associates, one of whom was stable. Today no races were ongoing, and the sheer size of the empty grounds and the grandstands were impressive. I hopped the locked turnstile and wandered the grandstands and some of the grounds, but all my searching turned up nothing and nobody, not even stable. I returned nearer the entrance to search for more clues. Found the gun. Uh-oh. The throat cleared behind me. I pocketed the weapon quickly, then turned around in the stable's smoke grin. Have you come to watch the horses? He asked. Rumor says that running through fire will be the victor. There are times it can be dangerous to put stock in rumors. So what are you doing here instead of at your barber shop? Ray Carter told me something interesting, I'd put to him. He says he got a wire for somebody and rushed out, leaving him mid-trim. For the first time I saw a stable frown. Well, business and pleasure sometimes mix, Miss Malone. Yes, I was telephoned for a maintenance issue, but that's now all sorted. How did you know my name? I questioned. He smiled again. He apparently liked smiling when he was pleased with himself. Barbers hear gossip from around town, Miss Malone. Sometimes that gossip is worth remembering. And what gossip had you heard about me? I asked. Just that the niece of the late San Francisco detective Lewis Malone had resigned from her policewoman duties and taken up a private detection agency. That was months ago, was it not? I confess I have not heard much since. Asked if he'd known Lewis. Not well enough, he said. I hear he did his job by the letters of the law. I lost that alphabet years ago. He's gonna know I took the gun. Let's just cycle through with all my clues. I'm gonna ask her where she was at midnight. One of your backing singers claimed you left the upstairs room before midnight, I said from my note. That's not true, she said defiantly. I was there the entire evening. You seemed quite sure, Miss Green. You sang to the drunken boys without you there. Well, I asked our doorman, Miss Malone. He said nobody left the upstairs room. Are you doing your own digging? I asked. But I just have no confidence in the police. Anyhow, if nobody came from upstairs, I'd eliminate anyone in the pool room. It must have been the restroom if Ellis is certain I wasn't with them at the exact time. Because could not have been otherwise. Because I could not have been outside. Contradict. Is that what Ricardo says? I posed to her. She stammered a little. Why'd you lie to me, Miss Smith? Then squinting at me hotly, then let out a sigh. Okay, he's right, she blurted. I'm in love with Paul. That's no crime. It was obvious she wanted to hide the relationship. If the two of them ever broke it off, her career would be doomed. I empathize with her. The heart never plays fair. This won't get out on my account, I promise. But you have to tell me where in Tiny Paul's whereabouts. She sighed and gave me the address of a Pacific Heights apartment building. He lives in the penthouse on the top floor. Just don't tell him I told you. I thank her for Paul's address and changed the subject. And some more about stuff. Your parents are Chinese? Besides, I don't even know my parents, and I can't speak Chinese. I was raised at the Occidental Board Mission House, the one orphanage that takes Chinese kids, but nobody adopts an Oriental. She said that last word with obvious disgust. Over half the kids my age die as infants, or the unwanted. She paused and looked down on her feet. I heard her to continue, but she didn't say anything else. This place you got here, Paul. Anti-gun holster. Get up, Paul. We need to talk. I says hello. It took a century, but his eyes eventually climbed to meet mine and he slurred a greeting. I figured a drunk Tiny Paul could be more honest. I thought it was a good time to grill him. To start with. Can't throw things out too early. He doesn't care about that at all. I saw at 9 and 5 in the morning. Well, you're not going anywhere. testimony keeps piling up. I mean, if it's that noticeable. I guess we could just keep it casual first. Nothing. Tiny Pauls tells me that you two met last night up at the stable. And then you met again early this morning. You said you looked ragged. Not much sleep then? Very well, stable side. I do admit that I spent yesterday searching for information on this case. And that perhaps the search bled into this morning. In my situation, would you not also look for clues against Green, a man who had accused you of blackmail? I must have been in him. I realized that Stable had no alibi the previous night. However, continued, in my search to clear my name, I did find a fact that might interest you. A fact that I kept to myself. But if Paul wishes to lay claims at my feet, I might as well tell you. Looking quizzically, the Tin Spoon has a back exit. Agents likely have no suspicion of it, but I am certain many of the staff know. They could enter and leave without anyone noticing. And how do you know this? I asked. Never mind how I came about the information. Just be thankful I'm giving it to you. If you do not believe me, I encourage you to ask others about it. That was a peculiar development, and I didn't continue my questioning. So does the doorman not know about the back entrance? Or was she just answering very specifically? Yeah, no one came through the main entrance at all. Some good info. this again. You just act straight directly. You're just gonna deny it, huh? This is an open relationship, huh? This isn't getting me anywhere. I guess I'll ask Ella about the back room. Okay, this is the clue I probably needed. Back exit the only women know about. Anything else about the back exit? So, I guess Paul wouldn't say anything about the back exit then, so... I really how rear view mirrors were invented. Yeah, try this again. We weren't in the pool hall at midnight. There is a back door that only the female performers can use. Is that right, Mrs. Green? Oh, yeah, she said. I think you're right. I stepped out at some point during the night, Mrs. Green admitted. Sometimes a girl needs fresh air. I could not have been gone long. I was in the billiards room most of the night. I'm getting close, but I gotta make sure I get it right. How does Stable know about the secret exit then? Interesting. Okay, let me just compare my notes. Did I ask Stable about a gun? I guess I should just grill everyone with details about Green's death. Do I have evidence for that? He claims he doesn't use a gun. Okay, one more thing. I'm just running out of taxi conversations too. Okay, after this I'm gonna go to the coffee place and see if I put all this info together. Nobody in the band would carry a gun, but everyone else would. Did I ask him about a gun? Round circles. He's just gonna be sitting in this chair all day. Mm-hmm. I don't remember baseball stuff. I guess I'll ask what he thinks about all these details. Yeah, I guess Frankie doesn't really know anything. Hey. So, Ella, Paul, and Ray claim to be hanging out at the pub at midnight together, and their stories seem to match up in that way. This is green and stable. Don't have alibis for midnight. Paul doesn't have a gun in his holster. And Stable says he doesn't usually use a gun, but technically maybe he got the gun from Paul. And that's why it's in the trash can at the track. Did I ask him about the newspaper? Oh, shit. Yeah. No. I just gotta solve this case and finish this game. It's probably not Ray. He doesn't have much of a motive or the means. And he's definitely playing poker with Paul. I'm starting to lean towards stable because he was more likely to have access to the gun than Annie did. Oh, I guess I need to prove what his motive would have been, besides being accused of blackmail. I can't get anything out of him. You know, actually, if Mrs. Green was having an affair with Paul, she also could have took his gun, and that's why he doesn't have it. Stable or green? I'm gonna talk to him about his gun, and hopefully the game will stop me if it gets too out of hand. I described the gun I found and how it matched the type gangsters were known to carry. And I don't see your gun around here, I ended. His jaw stiffened. I keep my gun in that holster. And when I'm not home, that holster stays on my person or in my jacket. So where is it now, Paul? What if I told you I lost it yesterday? How could you disprove that? I raised an eyebrow. A weak story, Paul. Weak or not, it's what I'm telling you. What are you gonna do about it? Just asking questions, I said to him. The detective has to cover all her leads. Paul took a heavy sigh, but in his drunken state, he didn't do much more. I think Danny has the stronger motive. And I don't think Paul will let Stable close enough to him to take his gun. That's what I'm thinking. Doing it. It's like a 50-50 chance, right? What I've narrowed it down to. Danny Green, I started boldly. You killed your husband. A stillness permeated the room as I spoke my words. I could prove your means, motivation, and opportunity for the murder. Annie's face contorted, like I'd first seen her in the Southern Coffee. She barked at me. What are you saying? I love my husband dearly. How dare you accuse me of murder? She huffed her way out of her breath, which gave me a chance to prove it. The means. We got the gun from Paul. Penny Paul's gun is missing, and he says only someone close to him could grab it. What are you implying, Miss Malone? Just that anybody in the billiards room could have taken his gun. This fellow not be crazy to try and take a gangster's gun. He just shot me with it first. I was not close to Tiny Paul. I showed Mrs. Green that Paul's missing gun could have been a murder weapon, but I had to tie her to it. And yet didn't prove any motive or opportunity to kill her husband. Well, first, not being close to Paul is BS because... you're having an affair, and you were close enough to Paul to take his gun. She screamed until she was blue, but I didn't believe her denials. An affair could give her enough motivation to kill her husband, and access to Paul's gun would give her the means. And the opportunity... You admitted to being gone for parts of the night, I told her. I could have given you the perfect opportunity to murder your husband. You held at that for a while, but it stuck. It was clear now. I put to her, Mrs. Green, you're the only one of my suspects with proof of motive, means, and opportunity for murder. You know you had to leave your husband. You left Paul, and as often happens, you began hating Connor because of it. So you tailed him to see what he was scheming. Maybe you could sink his plans and have them Bob do your dirty work. Then you met me. You learned your husband had been receiving death threats, and you knew that was your play. If he died, at least you would blame it on the underground. So last night, after your singing, you called Connor to the Tin Spoon. You snuck out of the billiards room the back way, taking Paul's gun with you. That's when you shot him. She looked at me hotly, about to burst. But then she sighed and stared and had her down in her feet. She began to cry. However, many opiates were running through her blood. She had lost all their effectiveness. I put an arm around her as she wept. Connor made my life miserable, she said between sobs. Look around this dump. That's how ruined I am inside. Oh, that manipulative little sneak. You're right. I hated him. That's why I started going with Paul in the first place. She balked at my surprise. Oh, no. I never loved Paul. I wanted him to kill Connor. But after learning about Ella, she trailed off. Oh, how could I convince Paul if he loved someone else? I had no way of leaving Connor. I slumped back into misery. What about a divorce? I offered. Divorce? She screamed the word back at me. Connor would never give me that. They say we're emancipated, sure, but we still need our husband's permission to leave his home. That was the only good thing that bum owned, and he would never let go of me. That's why I was chasing him yesterday, she continued. If I could prove infidelity, I'd demand a split in court. I got all excited when I saw you standing in your doorway. She started breathing more heavily. I had to follow you to make sure, but I was certain I had my out. Only, she sniffed, only, it happened you were above board. You're a detective, and I was still trapped. After we met, I came home to find Connor waiting for me. He said we'd be leaving for St. Louis. I took a gasp of air and continued. Doing everything I'd known for a place I'd never been, with a man I didn't love. I couldn't do it, and I told him so. And then he struck me. She wiped away her tears, and with them came her blush and thick camouflage powder. A liver-colored spot the size of a silver dollar showed on her cheekbone. He just marched out the door. He continued through her waterworks. I didn't know what to do. And then he thought of Paul's gun, I concluded for her. That's right. Maybe Paul wouldn't kill Connor, but I knew he carried a cannon, and I knew I could get to it. So you took Paul's gun and killed your husband, I said. No, she said. No, that was my plan, but... She broke off her sentence with a sniff and started another. I went to Paul's apartment late in the afternoon and grabbed his pistol, and I came back here. I sat in this chair, and the gun in my hand, wondering if I would do it. That's when he came in. Your husband? I offered. No, a much kinder man. Oh, he listened so well. I even told him about... He paused. About my plan. This other man, you knew him? He nodded yes. He said he understood everything. He said he could frame the murder. He said not to worry. He took the gun. It was stable, wasn't it? Oh, she cried. I couldn't let him go through with it. You see, that's why I left the tin spoon last night, to stop him. That was when I met Redstone's stable. In response to my raised eyebrow, she explained, I only met him last night. I had no idea that he had anything to do with my husband until this morning. The police told me at the station that Connor had suspected Stable. But I knew instantly that he was a terrible man. A woman's intuition never lies. Stable talks like a snake and has the looks to match. So you were both searching for the same person last night? I asked. Yes, but he wasn't around. I think... He sobbed. I'm tired of this, I said. Who is it? It's the owner of that hat, she said, pointing to it. It's Franklin. Frankie? I asked. She continued slowly. Yes, he took the gun from me yesterday. I was too dazed to argue. Nice story, I said. But you still fit the bill just fine. Well, even if I had the gun, how could I know where to plant it? I only met Stable last night. I knew nothing about him. Frankly, I known about the case from you, isn't that right? You're only telling this to me now? I asked. What's the big idea of stringing me along? Phyllis, she said softly. Franklin did this for me. It saves me. If that awful man Stable has to take the fall so that Franklin can stay free, well... She held off. I shook my head and looked at her. If she was telling the truth, Stable could confirm it. And if she was lying, I thought, what if she ran? Well, she would get stopped soon enough. Phyllis can be a curse. It would be a cinch to snatch her. Besides, with those opiates in her, she'd have difficulty standing, let alone running anywhere. I gazed at her, and she understood what I was thinking. I'll be right here if you come back. I wonder why she would fabricate such a story if she knew she was stuck. And I thought, what if it was the truth? I had to speak with Frankie. I stood up from the chair, still stunned. I remember grabbing the hat and staring at it. I knew I had to go to Southern Coffee. Oh, Frankie, say it isn't so. Frankie had been infatuated with Mrs. Green, and he could have found a visitor. He could have taken the gun. He knew about Stable from when I told him of the case, and could have planted it at this racetrack. Those facts might be explained away innocently, but it was the combination. Frankie was the only person with means, motivation, and opportunity to kill Green. I stepped out of the cab, hoping Frankie could give me another explanation for all of it. I walked down the creaking steps. That familiar basement smell added to the lump in my throat. I must have spent some time looking around the place, inhaling it. Eventually, my eyes fell on Frankie. He gave me his generous smile that I knew too well. I pulled out the hat and showed it to him. This hat belongs to you, I said in a flat tone. Frankie gaped. If I had any doubts, that looked to erase them. You killed Connor Green. Frankie's next sentence was short, delivered after a sigh. I always remembered it. Can't lie to you, he said. My jaw began to quiver, either from sadness or anger. It was hard to be sure. Why get wrapped up in this? I asked. Does that dimple girl mean so much to you? Frankie shook his head. This would be a long story, he started. I let him talk. As heated as I was, I had to know why Frankie would kill my client. It's that sheet, he motioned to the newspaper flopped on the bar. 1887, the St. Louis Browns. My last good season. My career was ruined by Thomas Kinney. Kinney was a mob boss, you see. He ran St. Louis politics, above ground and below. He was cruel to everyone, sure, but he had a special hate for blacks. In 1887, that hate came to baseball. One practice, a local kid comes up to the fence and calls Murray, our left fielder, over to him. He tells Murray that every Browns player has to sign on to a letter, which says that we refuse to play against the Brooklyn Cubans, colored team. The kid then runs off. We all knew who the orders had really come from. If I refused, the Inca Kinney's gang would run me out of baseball, or worse. Some of the best teammates and people I'd known over the years had been black. I was torn up about it. In the end, I guess I was just a kid who wanted to play. I didn't want trouble. I signed with the others. It was the worst decision I have ever made, Malone. It's haunted me since. I started putting it on the hooch, and never played the same again. I kept listening as Frankie continued. I became the booze hound of St. Louis, and dumps at every bar in town. But this louse had tales about old Tom's Kinney, and a way of telling them that kept the others interested. Maybe my ruiners were his work. Kinney lost the next election. Just a few weeks later, he died of tuberculosis. Kinney's partner Tom Egan blamed me for all of it. I knew I had to blow St. Louis, so I went to Philly, my hometown. I ran into my old pitching partner, Ned Kilroy, who had opened a bar. He invited me to run it with him, as long as I stopped drinking myself. Under his eye, I made it. I got sober by working in a speakeasy, if you can believe that. Even married Kilroy's sister and became stepfather to her 2 boys. I was engrossed and continued to listen as Frankie went on. Well, by then, Egan had renamed the gang, and Egan's rats had spread east. They came for me one night, and I barely ducked their spray. Luckily, a cop was near speed, or they would have circled around and finished the job. I had a great life in Philly, but I had to give it up. I couldn't put my new family in that danger. I fled out west, where I knew the rats didn't have a foothold. Philly was the second time those bastards ruined my life. I ended for him, and when he discovered that Green was part of Egan's rats, you wouldn't let him ruin you a third time. Frankie laughed. No, Malone, that could have run easy. My life here ain't much. I have nobody here, really. You. Sure, I could be somewhere else, but it's you. Egan's rats wouldn't leave an end loose. If Green had reached St. Louis, they'd have come back and tied you up. I can run from town to town, but I can't make you do that. I was the one who told you to take the case, remember? I had to stop them from hounding the rest of your life. I stared at him without thought or emotion. He said, I did this for you. Poetic, Frankie, I countered. But this only proves he had no faith in me. Just like Green, who hired me because he thought I wouldn't see through his scheme. Or his wife, who was hoping I would gum up the works for the police. You thought I couldn't hold my own. I'm just some flapper playing in a man's world, is that right? Frankie shrugged. I just wanted to protect you. I can protect myself, I told him. And without any murders, he sighed. I suppose I wouldn't blame you for taking me in, he said. No, I won't fight if you want to drag me to the fall. But the police have stopped looking for a killer. If you let me, I keep running. It's up to you. If I don't arrest Frankie, then Stable's gonna get arrested instead, and yeah, he's kind of sketchy, but he hasn't done anything wrong that I can prove. I have to do it. When I say actors, did they mean the models for the character design? It's still pretty cool either way. And let these credits run. It was a few mornings later that I received a knock on my door. A small man in a light blue uniform asked me to sign for a package and handed me an envelope and a brown box. I opened the envelope. Inside was a large loop writing of Mrs. Frances Green. It was a long note spanning multiple leaves. I only skimmed most of it. It She must use every allegory known to man to apologize for her behavior in the case. She then claimed she was starting life anew, ridding herself of reminders of her late husband. Finally, she said she was sorry about Franklin, and any part she played in his unfortunate actions. As I read the name Franklin again, a drop fell and smudged the ink. I wiped my cheek before more drops could join it. Mrs. Green's note ended with the hope that this gift of hers would begin to remedy any grudges I had against her. Though truly, I felt none. I turned to the box and removed one side of tape from the cardboard, then snapped the flaps open with a couple of loud pops. Rolled in a loose ball inside the box was Lewis's greatcoat. I put it on and looked at myself in the mirror. I grabbed the lapels and pulled them tight. The trench coat suited me. I wonder how Green had first gotten hold of it. That innocent question was about to lead to a lot of trouble. Oh man, I would totally pay a sequel of this. Well, that's the game, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Maybe come catch what I see what I play next time. I'll see you then.